Hi there. I hope you have watched my previous video on JSON schema. If not, go and check that out. It's a very important test case that we have to write as a tester. Okay, so what JSON schema ensures is that we are testing the structure of our model class. Okay, so your model could be into any programming language, for example, C Sharp if you are working on ASP.NET Core, could be a Java class if you are working with Spring Boot and so on, right? So what happens is the the model object is serialized into JSON, right? And then we see that as a response. Okay, so first test that you have to write is test the structure of your model class. How can you do that? With the help of JSON schema. And now second test case that you have to write is, so what JSON schema ensures is that the result set that you are seeing is abiding to a schema, a structure. Okay, it does not check what value is there inside the structure. Okay, so for example, name is equal to John, right? So the value that we have stored inside the variable John name is of type string. Okay, and it carries the value John. Tomorrow it may contain Mary. All right, so the data type will remain the same, however the value is different. So with the help of JSON schema, what have we tested? That the whatever value that we are storing inside the variable name, right, is of type string. Now this test 2 will target the content of the response. Okay, so this is going to be our test that we are going to write. Then we are going to test the headers, the response headers. Now uh, most of the headers are generated automatically by the application server on which your application is running, so there is no point in testing that. Okay, so what do you have to test then? So for example, it's a good practice, when you create a new resource, right? So means you are sending a post request, add the location header which will contain the URL of the newly generated resource, right? If that thing is implemented, let's go and test that out. Okay, uh, what else do we need to test? Because with the help of middleware, we are serializing our model object into JSON, right? That's something that we have to test. So for that, there's a header content type. That's something that we can test. Okay, the last one is, what do we have to test on the response status? So there you can test how long it took to process the request. Again, there might be a middleware in your case which is ensuring the caching, right? So first time when you send the request, let's say it takes 500 milliseconds. If caching is implemented, next time it should take less than 500 milliseconds. Okay, so then that is something that you have to test, and to test that, again, make use of the retry logic that I've explained in one of the previous videos. Okay, so then what else can you test in the response? You can test the code, response status code. For example, in case of get, right, it is typically 200, right? When you create a new resource, it is 201, right? When you don't provide the authentication, it is 401. When you pick some method which is not available, it's 405, method not allowed. And if there is some problem on the server side, it's going to be 500, right? So these are, and when you delete a record, it's 204, I guess, right? So these are the things that uh, you have to test. Okay, so with that, let's move on to our slide in Postman. Okay, so what do we have to test? We test the schema first. Second, we have to test the content of the response. Third, we have to test is the header list. And the last one is your response status, right? So this is a post request which we are working on, and it is going to pass. Okay, I don't require all these complicated things, so let me just simplify that. So this is what we are going to send in the body. Okay, just save everything. So this is what we are going to send, and when I send this request, a new record would get created. Okay, and let's check that out. Okay, I have to make one more change. Just give me a second. So I have to supply this because I'm not using any environment variable as such. Let me save that, hit the send button. And there is some more problem. So 401 unauthorized. So okay, I have to come here and I have to provide the credentials. There we go. Hope it would work this time. Yeah, so a new record is created with status code 201. Okay, so now let's do the testing. Let's write the test case to validate these, and also check out for the header which I was referring to, location. That's the header, and you could see the ID of the newly created resource. Okay, so because this ID is getting generated automatically, this is the primary key. So we'll test the other four fields in our test cases. We're not going to test ID, right? So yeah, let's come here for content validation. If you don't know the coding, don't worry. All you have to do is scroll down and respond this. Great. So what we are going to do is, I'll explain. That's why I'm deleting that. So the thing is, this particular variable JSON data is holding your response object. Okay, so what we have done using this is pm.response.json. We have converted the response into the JSON object, which is a JavaScript object, and we are going to lift its current scope and we are going to place it here. Okay, so that any function can access it. Okay, and now what do we want? We want to test what? We have to validate name. Okay, and to be, okay, so this is what we have to do. And how can we access this value? So JSON data dot name. All right, that's how we traverse using this member access operator to equal what? To equal this. Okay, and now all you need to do is copy paste. Okay, for type, speed and lifespan. So type to be this. Okay, change the type to this. Speed, okay, to be, now this is what? This is integer, so we don't require those codes. Speed is 60. Okay, and got to do it for, okay, so speed to be 60 and lifespan to be 26. Okay, sorry, so this has to be 26 and 26, and this would be lifespan, and this would be speed. Okay, so we have written test cases for the body now. All right, now next is header. Again, make use of code snippets. So what do we have to test? We have to test two headers. So let's test the first one. Status code is 200. Okay, no, this is for the response status. We need to check for the header. So yeah, there is one code snippet for that. So content type is present. The other one that we have to test is the location, and you can also check for, currently I'm just doing it for, whether it exists or not. You can check the exact value as well. Okay, and this is going to be what? Location. And you can see that pm.response to have header, right? So it's that simple. Just by reading that statement you can figure out what you are doing here, and this is going to be location. Okay, so we have tested the important headers. We're not testing the auto generated ones. Response status code is response time is less than, in our case, let's say it's going to be 700, and change the value here as well. All right. And what else do we have? Oh, we are posting it, right? So we also have to check that we have a code snippet for post. Yes, we have. Click on that. Okay, I've generated that inside it. So let me just take this out. And right, so to be, I don't want one off. It has to be precisely, in my case, 201. Okay, to be equal 201. Pretty much it. These are some of the important test cases that we are going to write. And let us send the request again and check our test tab. Right, so these are the test cases that we've written. Check the schema, this, type, speed, lifespan, counter time, location. It is very important when you write these test cases. Make sure that they should fail when they have to fail. Okay, so let's check this out. Let's make a change to this. Okay, and see if it is failing. You see one test case is failing. This to deeply equal this, and they are not, hence it's failing. Okay, all right. One more thing that you have to take care while writing these test cases, at times it feels to you that you are working on a specific data type, but it turns out to be not. So how can you figure out the data type of the value you're working with? All you have to do is just do this. So write console. This is how you are going to debug your issues. So all you're going to do is you will say json.name, right, and the command that you have to use is type of, and that is it. Okay, open your console in a separate window and save the request and send it again. So yeah, in the console you're going to see this. All right, so for example, if you see true, right, and that is between the quotes, then it's a string, it is not boolean. Okay, so those kind of things. All right, so we have written all the basic tests, and these are mandatory as well, not just basic. Right, so make sure that you write at least these test cases, and you can extend it depending upon what you have to test, depending upon what strategy you have in place. All right, so let's see. Yeah, we have covered everything. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.